Matthew DePrimo is a distinguished U.S. Army combat veteran and the founder of CareerBridge IT Solutions, a company dedicated to bridging employment gaps for underrepresented groups in STEM fields. His military service, including a deployment to Afghanistan, instilled in him a resilient leadership philosophy centered on overcoming challenges, a principle he now applies to his entrepreneurial endeavors. Motivated by the struggles of international students and professionals facing barriers to employment, Matthew established CareerBridge to create opportunities for veterans, international professionals, the BIPOC community, and women in STEM. Under his leadership, the company partners with universities across New York State to assist graduates in securing local employment, thereby fostering diversity and inclusion in the tech industry. Matthew's commitment to mentorship and continuous learning has been pivotal in shaping CareerBridge's mission to challenge industry biases and promote equitable hiring practices. Welcome, Matthew DePrimo, to Full Spectrum Frontiers. Matt DePrimo.
Yes, sir.
Syracuse extraordinaire.
Well, I wouldn't say extraordinaire, but I'm making my way around.
Yeah. So give us, and I'll say us because it's the crowd, right?
Absolutely.
So give us the lowdown on who Matt DePrimo is.
Yeah. Military experience. I was with the United States Army. I was an officer. I got out as a captain medically after a tour in Afghanistan. 2022 was when I got out and jumped right into a master's program at Syracuse University. And while I was there, met some incredible folks who are involved in some great things happening in the Syracuse area and really surrounding everything we've been seeing with the CHIPS Act and, Micron expanding into central New York. So, kind of got involved in that momentum swing, started a company that does staffing and recruiting for STEM. And now we're getting into some real estate management. And I do project management a little bit on the side there as well. It's a little mosh posh of everything I got going on, but, pride and joy. We just had a beautiful baby daughter 4 months ago yesterday.
Wow, congrats.
Born on the 4th of July.
No way.
That?
That's
How about
incredible. Coolest birthday ever, man.
She'll never have work or school.
Right, ever.
That's a win.
My one of my daughters, it's literally her favorite holiday. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, it's been a wild ride. I'd say the past, 4 years, 2 to 4 years, a lot of things changing and moving and grooving, but we call Syracuse, New York, central New York home, and we're loving it here.
And you're from here originally?
Oh, well, originally I was down in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. I grew up in a little town there called Jefferson Township. And what got me out of there was my undergrad at Penn State University, and did 2 years as an internal investigator for Fortune 500 companies before I jumped into the military. And I guess that kind of loops back into what we were saying earlier. But man, so it's
regular Penn State,
Penn State fan. Oh yeah, big Penn State fan. Main campus.
Yeah, main campus. That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, well, my Penn Staters out there that are from the branch campuses will get upset. We call it University Park. For everyone, equal. There's no main campus. You hear that a lot, but University Park is what the one in State College is called.
I love it there. It's so cool.
Gosh.
My again, same daughter, 4th of July. She would literally just watch. You know how like they have the cameras during the football games where they just show the crowd.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Yeah.
seen those? She would
Yeah.
just watch the student section. So funny. It's the
Oh
funniest thing
man.
ever. So
Yeah. There's great culture around Penn State football. You know, it's definitely come a long way in the past few years. Um, Tough loss. Boy, did they have a tough loss this past weekend
yeah.
against their rival. But, great school. Man, you go down there in the fall during football season,
Uh-huh.
the leaves are changing.
It's
You
gorgeous
know, it's just incredible. It is.
for sure. So undergrad Penn State,
Yep.
then you worked for 2 years
Hmm.
uh, for Fortune 500 World, right?
Yeah.
And then the Army. What brought that upon?
Yeah, I'm pretty wild story, but when I was working for those Fortune 500, I was basically playing undercover boss, blending in with the crowd and, putting hidden cameras and doing audits of people's paperworks and whatever, right? Um, while I was on duty, a gentleman was leaving one of the high-end warehouses and, got patted down like everyone does, and then he suffered from a heart attack. He hit the pavement and I heard somebody scream. So I came running out of the control room and there was just this guy laying on the floor. So flipped him over, tore the shirt open, had somebody get me a defibrillator, had somebody else call 911. I started with my chest compressions and, rescue breaths and for about 5 minutes until the paramedics showed up. I was a deep sea lifeguard. Um, when I was younger. So, that training just kind of kicks right in. And after, the paramedics showed up with their good defibrillator and airbag, we were able to
I
we
hate
were
to
able to get
laugh
a
at that, but it's
oh
so
my
true. Like
gosh.
the
Right.
defibrillators that most of these companies have on their walls are just trash. But
Yeah. I
either
wonder when the
way,
last time they tested them too.
right,
They
exactly.
sit there and they collect dust until it's needed. And then if it's a problem, it's a problem when you need it. So shout out to all the companies out there who need to
Actually do their
regularly
OSHA
check
checks,
their
right?
stuff, right? But yeah, so we got a faint pulse on him, and we got him on a gurney and put him in the back of an ambulance. Off he went. 2 weeks later, the big wigs of the company pulled me in for a meeting, and I thought I was getting fired because you're early 20s, you're young, you don't understand really how all that is playing out,
And you
and
hear nightmare stories about people
dude,
that
the
do the right
night
thing and then they
get
get yeah,
yep.
it's
You
awful.
get the penalty,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
get
right.
you get the penalty for doing the right thing, right? So but they pulled me in and they were like, hey, we wanted to thank you, here's some gift cards to our organization, blase. And I walked out of there thinking, wow, cool, I was thanked, this is pretty great. I feel like I did something meaningful. And then you look down at your hand and you see these gift cards and you go, man, is this all this guy was worth to them, was 300 bucks in gift cards or whatever it was. So I said, you know what, I don't know if this is going to be for me. And I've always contemplated the military. A bunch of my buddies from high school all joined the service. My father, a 14-year veteran out of the Army, convinced me to go to college first.
Yeah.
Um, and so, I listened to him. You learn the lessons from people who came before you, so you don't have to make any
Hopefully, right?
mistakes they might have, right? So yeah, he was enlisted for 14 years and big influence on my life. Definitely one of the major reasons why I had a call to service. But it wasn't until this event happened that it really opened my eyes, and I said, you know what, I got to do something more with my life. This 9 to 5 corporate America thing just isn't cutting it anymore. So I joined the military. Went down to an Army recruiter with my dad, and it just kind of the rest is history.
Did you look at any other services or just the Army?
Yeah, actually I did. I ironically enough, was contemplating the service and had to take the AFOQT, which is the Air Force Officer Qualification Test, down at Fort Dix McGuire. And Air Force, they take their time, make sure they get the
Oh my
right
God.
candidate.
Yeah.
They really cross their T's and dot their I's. Um, and then this event transpired, maybe a year later. And I was like, man, I'm not waiting anymore. We're going to do something about it. And I went
Right.
down to an Army recruiter, and within months I was shipping off to basic and then officer candidacy school.
Wow.
Yeah, it
Crazy.
was it was wild. I feel like ever since I put my foot on that gas pedal, it hasn't come off and it's been
Yeah.
years.
Right. For sure, man. Absolutely. So, so after we get out of how long were you in the army for?
I was in for 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah,
Medically.
medically retired. Yeah.
Okay. Um, Afghan infantry officer, correct?
No, no, no.
No.
Well, when I was in Afghanistan, I was doing some wild stuff. But my MOS is a 25 Alpha. I was a signal officer.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But when
One
I was
thing.
overseas, I don't think I did any signal work.
Yeah. No. That's usually what happens, right? So,
Yeah, yeah.
signal, but that's still cool.
Oh man,
MOS. Yeah.
it
Crazy.
was great because I was with the brigade combat team, and they're really recon heavy,
Yeah. And that kind of
super
explains why
light
you didn't do a
infantry.
whole lot of signal work too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up getting in. There's a really unique route that signal officers can go down, or just signalers in general, but they can become almost like a scout or a reconnaissance signal.
Yeah.
They can get a specific designation. There's a couple schools they can go to for it. So, I did a lot of retransmission with my first platoon uh, when I took that position at Fort Drum. So, I was basically just running with the scouts, and it was boatloads of fun. Um, I mean,
Yeah.
it was wild. They were wild cats, but they were fantastic at what they did. So, it was really interesting when I went over to Afghanistan. They actually tagged me with a contracting officer position. So I go over there, and
Wants
I
and
didn't
needs
think
of the
I
army,
was
my friend.
I didn't think I was even gonna get to deploy. The mission wasn't there for me.
Yeah.
So I went to my company commander at the time and I said, "Sir, I don't care what you got to do. I'm going on this deployment." Um, so he talked to the battalion commander. He ended up, slotting me for this contractor position. And I get over there and they're like, "Hey, you're going to be a base defense commander. You're going to be in contracting officer in charge of all the base defense contracts in Afghanistan." Uh, I was a
Good Lord.
black bar lieutenant at the time. They're just like,
Wow.
"Here's everything." you know? But yeah, so it was a wild time, like I said, when I was over there, and then COVID hit while we were in Afghanistan, and while the peace deals were going on with the Taliban,
Wow.
or so the public says.
Right.
Because I remember distinctly, you know, the same day as the peace treaty was being signed, and 2 days after the peace treaty was signed, we got rocket attacked at our base. So I
Wow.
was like, peace treaty, no way, no way. They
Yeah.
didn't get the message yet. Um, but it was a fun deployment. Learned a lot. Met some incredible people, and by the grace of God, made it home, and here we are. Right. So
Yeah.
we
Absolutely.
Charlie Mike, and they give you the, hey, here's your orders, you're medically retired, and you're like, boy, I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. So thankfully I pretty quick on my toes and decided to pursue further education, use my GI Bill. And it just worked out so perfectly. Syracuse University, just south of Fort Drum, they're a yellow ribbon school. They have a VA in the city of Syracuse. They have the National Veteran Resource Center, housed just across the street of Syracuse's campus. I think it's technically they own the property, so I think it is
Yeah.
Syracuse's
Technically, it's
campus.
still a and the VA is
Yeah,
literally right.
right
Might as
across
well
the
be on
street.
campus too. So
Yeah, it is directly across the street from campus. So it's really, Syracuse is just such a veteran hotspot. It's a great place to be, and New York takes great care of their veterans. So I've got no complaints.
See, I would agree living in New York. A lot of people, they'll bring up other states for veteran stuff.
Mm,
And I'll tell you what, New York does a good job. I
yeah,
like the benefits wise from the state are I lived in North Carolina for a while too, and I didn't find their benefits, the most military friendly state, right? Maybe because they have
sure.
huge bases there, right? But at the end of the day, I feel like New York does way more
Mm,
for the veterans than North Carolina did. Just
yeah,
just my personal uh 2 cents.
I think taxes alone, if you
Oh,
just look at taxes in the state of New York, the benefits that veterans have on their property tax, the fact that your pension, your retirement pay isn't taxed.
mhm,
I mean, it's incredible, you know. The
yeah,
the one thing that everybody always complains about, right,
is
is
taxes.
is taxes. And it's like, what are the two things you're guaranteed in life is death and taxes.
Yeah.
And and when you're a veteran in the state of New York, it's,
Like
the
our
taxes
property taxes,
become
we get a nice
reduced.
break. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah,
Huge actually. And because the property taxes are brutal. They are.
they can be.
They can be brutal. Insane, especially like if you're on like waterfront property, blah 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 blah.
Mm,
We can complain about all this all day, but at the end of the day, too, um, I think you do get some bang for your buck. At the end of the day, schools are better because of it. There's
hmm.
a lot of things that are better. Um, I yeah, I I don't like the taxes in New York, but I love New York.
Yeah,
You probably feel the same way,
it's
especially
exactly the same.
when it comes to outdoors and things. Like you can't beat it. You seriously
No,
can't.
look at where we're located. I mean, it's, when you're in Syracuse area, we could say Onondaga County, but you go, I would say, almost 2 hours in every direction, and you're going to hit something incredible. You can be in the Finger Lakes, you can be down in the Poconos, you can be in the Adirondacks, you can be on the St. Lawrence River up in, Alexandria Bay area. You could be down at the Capitol in Albany.
Yeah,
You have the
or over down the
Catskills.
Catskills, right? Like,
That's it.
just it's
Exactly.
insane. Because
Everything.
everyone thinks New York City, right? And no, that's like
Oh, far
this
from it.
much of the state. Nobody wants to be there. I mean, I don't, but
Right.
the rest of the state, just the Adirondacks. And my big thing is the Adirondacks and the St. Lawrence, like the
Yeah.
Thousand Islands. That's my jam
Yeah.
with the fishing and everything. But anyway, I don't know how we ended up down that road, but either way, it's great. It's pretty awesome. So we go from military service, then you go to grad school at Syracuse
Right.
and
Right.
marketing. Is that what you said?
No, no. So,
See, I can't hear you today.
it's
You
all
can't.
good. So I think you're just, you're teeing me up is
Yeah,
what you're doing.
exactly. There you go.
We'll use good phrases for it. Everything's positive. We could take a spin. No, so I was studying information systems
That's what.
and a certificate of advanced study in information security. Um, Pondering if I was going to go to law school. My undergraduate degree was pre-law. I focused in rhetorical analysis and theory. So I was considering law school after undergrad. I considered law school post grad, but I think I'm happy where I'm at for now. But yeah, studied information systems, and it was an incredible major. It was kind of a jack of all trades major where you get a good understanding of the business side of IT, but you also, it's a la carte, so you can kind of dip your toes in a little bit of data, a little bit of cybersecurity, a little bit of AI, whatever it is that you fancied. And I chose information security as my focus, and so you take some extra courses and you can walk away with two papers. Um, so I did that. It was incredible. They have such good professors there. It was amazing. Professor Park, that's the shout out to him. Yeah, Professor Park of the I school at Syracuse University is one of the hands down best professors I've had, and his knowledge in information security is unmatched to most people that I've ever talked to. But yeah, so I studied that there, and while I was in this class, really, it was a database management systems class, and while I was in this class, grad classes, a lot of them end at night, so it was 8 p.m. and everybody, class is over, you grab your stuff and run for the door. Um, and these two students were just kind of hanging out in the back of the class. So I was like, huh, that's strange. And so I rolled up to them, said, hey, like what's going on? Like, why aren't you heading out yet? And why are your faces so glum? Because they just looked like they've seen a ghost. So, well, we just got denied more jobs and internships. I said, whoa, okay. Well, how's your cover letters? How are your resumes? What does your LinkedIn look like? Did you clean up your social media, whatever? And I knew that they were, you know, highly intelligent people because I'm in classes with them. I'm seeing the grades they're getting. I'm seeing the work that they're doing, the coding they're doing, presentations. And, it's just incredible to hear that they're struggling to find something. Um, so, I say, okay, well, I wish I could help. And they just jokingly say, well, why don't you create a company? We'll work for you. And, I was like, oh, laughed it off, walked out of there. For about 48 hours, all I kept hearing was, why don't you create a company? And, maybe like 3 months later, I gathered up some folks who could mentor me in the entrepreneurial space and kind of developed what it is that I wanted to accomplish. And, then we created this organization called CareerBridge IT Solutions.
Awesome.
And it has been a wild ride with that. And we
It's like
love
a
it.
whirlwind, man.
Oh man. It's
So,
just been one thing leading into the next.
right. So, Career Bridge.
Hmm.
Talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Career Bridge. So, what can we do, right? How is it easy for me to find work in all these cities and all these states, but it's hard for other people to find work? And then you hear it from the other side of the house from the employers saying, we can't find anyone to work.
So, how do you put those together?
Right. So I see, okay, I have the employee and the employer, and they're both complaining about conflicting things. I think about it, you've got a pipe or a tube and there's a block in the tube. So you just got to push something down that tube or clear it out so that pipeline, is reestablished. So these folks are reconnected. And really what it is it's a big disconnect in the understanding, what your pools of talent are and where they can come from.
Yeah.
And so you hear a lot of these manufacturing organizations or, even financial institutions, universities, healthcare facilities, they're always looking for talent, but the talent's right under their noses.
So, what's
So,
the disconnect like between the two? Like, what are the people looking for jobs? Like, what's their gripes? Let's start there. Like, what are the main gripes from the like the two guys that you came across? Like,
yeah.
what were their big gripes about, like, not getting, like what were the barriers there?
So they were the main case study of why we created Career Bridge. But what ended up happening with them was they were two international females from India who were struggling to get a job in America. And they said that the red tape they were trying to get employers to cut through, um, was the visa process. And so I said, there's got to be an easier way. Why is this such a hang up? Like we're a pretty well established organization here, and I'm talking Syracuse University, but I'm also talking United States. Like
Yeah.
we can figure this out. There has to either already be a way created, somebody's, lobbying for something to make this happen. Like there's got to be an answer. So I started digging and I stumble upon an international law firm that was, kind of putting on this clinic. So you see it's happening. It's always trending in the United States. For some reason, it's like, the ocean. It goes east to west, west to east, east to west. And right now, the trend coming across the country is the adoption of, these international folks who are here legally, on an F1 visa, pre-vetted through a university.
Right.
And that's who these folks are that we're dealing with here. And, what's their biggest gripe is that employers don't know how the process works, or they think they know how the process works. But until you partner with somebody like an international law firm who it's their job to know what the process is,
Yeah.
you don't fully know the full picture. So, we see these labor shortages of all these organizations, and they, especially manufacturing and everything. And we see United States companies outsourcing to Mexico or China or India or wherever it may be, because labor's cheap when you do it overseas. And so they're trying to, you know, control their margins based on, okay, can I outsource? Um, but right in front of you, you have this incredible talent pool. And we're just talking international at this point. But I have to say,
And they're
the
right in America.
organization,
They're already
oh,
here.
they're already here.
Right.
They're already here. They're here. Like I said, I had to, really hammer that in, is that they're here on an F1 visa,
Where they've already been
pre-vetted
vetted. Right.
by accredited universities all across America. And so this is,
And they probably don't really want to go home.
well, I'll be
Or,
honest with
or
you,
they
they
want to
don't.
work in America.
They don't. And well, here's the thing, right? We can look at it two different ways, okay? You come here to America and you get an American degree, and which, around the world, US degrees, fantastic, right? So then you come to America, you get a US degree, you go home, you're a rock star because you have a US degree, right? Or that's how at least the clients I've spoken to have told me,
Yes.
you know. And so when they go home with these degrees, everyone's like, oh my gosh, you've got an American education, you must be, intelligent and have all this knowledge. And so they take them. That's great for them. But what you're getting paid here versus there is pennies on the dollar, right? So they want to stay here in the States because it's a better opportunity, it's better chances, better living. I mean, look at it this way. On my father's side of the family, we're what, third, I'm either third or fourth generation American Italian. I think it's third. And so it's, at one point in time, my family was immigrants. At
Yes.
one point in time, they were living in Sicily and made their way over to America, right? So they did what it is that everyone always says, the American dream. They did it. And now look at where, generations later, look at where their children are. My
Hmm.
father was in the military, I was in the military. We serve our country, right? We do what we can to be good citizens, and it's like, these folks want to do the same thing. So some of them want to come to America, get the degree, maybe get a little bit of experience, and then go home and be rock stars. Or some of them want to come here to America, get the degree. That's like their buy-in,
Yeah.
like, I'm buying into this system, this ecosystem. I'm getting your degree. I'm traveling here. I'm paying for it. And they're on, again, they're on a visa, so they're all legitimate. And then, they want to either naturalize or at least get their green card so that they can live and stay in the United States,
Yeah.
right? They want to get, any other type of visa too, because there's also a disconnect in how many different visa offerings there are. Everyone just thinks there's H-1B. In fact, there's a boatload of other visas that look at specific individuals. But so with all of that aside, right, there's this incredible opportunity with international professionals, that we leverage to help these folks get a good job here in America. And it allows these individuals to work in America for 4 years without ever needing an additional visa.
Wow.
And the
And so this,
national
I'm not trying to be
average,
hyperbolic
oh
also.
no,
These are the
please.
people we want.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Right.
want everybody that wants to work and wants to
Right.
succeed and wants, to grow the ecosystem, grow the economy, grow, these organizations, keep them stateside. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If that means that I'm hiring an international professional, I don't care,
Right.
right? People
Absolutely.
have these
Absolutely.
implicit biases
Right.
in, oh, I don't like someone because of this reason or that reason, and they associate it with all these negative connotations, and it's like you're overgeneralizing
Or
a group of
absolutely.
people.
And that's
Yeah.
why I mean, I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I'm just
Oh
saying
no.
that in general, that, this is sometimes the way that the American mindset works when we
Right.
hear foreign folks coming to this country. On paper and in reality, these are the people that you want. Like this is what the American dream is about,
Correct.
are these people. Right.
Correct.
So
Now, the people who are in the United States that want to succeed, want to, be a functioning member of society, want to contribute, those folks also, we need to make sure that they're getting jobs too.
agree.
And so we look at four underrepresented groups in total, and that's the international population, which we're talking about, military veterans, the Black, Indigenous, and people of color community, and kind of included in all three of those groups, but women in STEM.
Gotcha.
And so these four groups we've noticed, we just did a case study in Onondaga County in Syracuse, right? And we said, okay, what is the problem with most universities? They have their graduates will finish at, it could be in Idaho, it can be in Missouri or Illinois or Ohio or wherever, right? And where do they want to go when they graduate? They want to go to Boston, they want to go to New York City, they want to move to Miami, they want to move to Austin, Texas now. They're going to LA, San Francisco, all these big overpopulated cities where the cost of living is absurd.
Some sort- yeah.
And so I just did the simple math, right? I went on and everything I'm talking about too is all free open source information. I didn't create my organization with any, secrets, and we weren't conjuring magic spells to find a solution. We just looked at, what is out there right
And
now.
right on the books already.
Yeah, and we just shined a light on it and we said, "Oh, there it is." And so I don't understand, we use the Bureau of Labor and Statistics data, which can be skewed. Not everybody submits. So, there is some deviation that you have to account for. And but that's simple numbers that you can adjust for and look at to calculate. But we saw what's the average cost of living in this county, and I'm rounding up $40,000 a year cost of living, right? And then we said, okay, well, the average, you name it, science major, technology major, engineering major, mathematics major, what's their average salaries, right? And so that's the highest and the lowest. It's everybody. And we're seeing a fluctuating number about 74, $76,000 in this area. So we're seeing that, STEM professionals are making a killing in this area. They're doing a great job and their cost of living is low, right? See, I don't look at what is my salary, right? And oh, okay, I'll move to New York City because I'm going to get $100,000 salary where the cost of living is 80, 85,000. I'm walking away with a 17, 18% margin on,
Yeah.
end of
Not
year,
right.
right? Like what? That's crazy. But then if I go move to like Syracuse and get paid $80,000 a year, I'm,
You're
living at a
doing quite well.
50% margin. Yeah, you're doing incredible. So I said, well, this is interesting because now there's companies in the Syracuse area that were posting jobs saying, we'll hire you for $100,000 because, like I said, people are saying I want to live in these other big cities. And I go, holy cow, these guys are willing to pay $100,000 to bring somebody in from another state when they have members of those four underrepresented groups that I said that are just down the street at these universities that are graduating every May, every August, and every December, a constant churn of people coming out with the newest and freshest knowledge and the best technology that's out there. Because let's face it, if you don't have that as a university, you're not going to succeed. You're going to fall off the map. And
Right.
Syracuse University, they're on the map. They've been doing incredibly well. So, you're getting a very smart candidate. And so, when we focus in those four major groups, they don't want to move to New York City or LA. They want to find a home, find a place that they can call home. They want to earn a living. They want to put food on their tables. They want to have a house over their head or a roof over their head, right? These folks are the ones who want the American dream. These are the ones who are willing to contribute to the economy, who want to grow and keep these companies here in the United States. So this is who we are investing our time with, because they're the ones who want to invest back into society.
So
Yeah.
in this area too, we have a huge up and coming tech,
Mm.
not just tech either, but uh, pretty much manufacturing coming
Oh
back.
yeah. Oh
For
yeah.
sure. We lost a lot of manufacturing in the 90s and early 2000s, but now we've got a decent amount coming back to this area. And you touched on Micron earlier, but even
Mm-hmm.
more than Micron. I mean, you've got companies like Lockheed who have
Absolutely.
expanded their footprint, SRC, Saab,
Mm. Mm.
and then not very far from us, we have Rome and
Right.
Griffiths, the Griffiths Technology
Air Force Research Lab that's
airport
out there too.
and all that. And, that's a half-hour drive.
Right. Right.
So we literally have this um, system, it's not system, but
The foundation's here.
the foundation's here already.
Oh,
And we also
absolutely.
have easily available power. This is one of the
Yes.
reasons Micron's coming,
Water,
water,
power.
power. We have all of
Mm-hmm.
it, right? We have
Yeah.
nuke plants, that are 45 minutes away. We got all the things.
Yeah, it's incredible. We're poised for some incredible stuff. And you hear about the CHIPS Act and everything that passed. And now they're talking about the STEM corridor, which is,
Yep.
this I-90 corridor where every city, if you look at it, Syracuse, we're kind of right in the middle, but there's this beautiful highway that goes across New York, connecting, I'd say, a majority of the major cities, Buffalo, you know, Rochester, Syracuse, Utica, Rome, Albany, and then, I mean, just a short little drive down the Finger Lakes and you're in Ithaca,
Yeah.
right? Like a little short drive up north, you're in Watertown up by Fort Drum.
Yep.
It's
And
just such a beautiful
plus we have one
network
of
or
the only
connection.
so drones are
Oh
huge here
yeah, we
too
do
because we
have
have
a
one of
whole
the
drone corridor.
we have one of the only drone corridors in the nation.
Wow.
So and what I like that you brought up Ithaca because Ithaca means Cornell as well. So
Exactly.
not
People
only
forget
with the
that.
technology is that when it comes to farming and
Mm-hmm.
ag, that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
biggest schools in the nation.
Yeah.
Like they're on the cutting edge of agriculture. And I've seen a big pollination between companies in and around Syracuse and Rochester and even Binghamton because SUNY Binghamton
Mm-hmm.
and Cornell do a lot of cross pollination with
Oh yeah.
stuff, but in ag technology and agriculture, which is something that people don't really think about. But as it comes to even like I brought it up, we've talked about this in before is in national security. What is more important than food, right?
Right.
And when it comes to that type of stuff, we live in such a unique, target rich environment for the cross section of technologies and agriculture that it will blow your mind. So
Mm.
I just wanted to bring that up.
No, it's important too because people think STEM, right? And they immediately think like, oh, that must be, like an electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, maybe a computer scientist. But no, STEM has biology. STEM has all the science majors
Yep.
as well, So that's why really focusing on STEM people think, oh, that's a good target market. You kind of made yourself, you narrowed it down. But when you look under the umbrella that is STEM, it's actually a wider net
Huge.
than you would believe. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, even like, so one of the big things I've seen lately is a lot of kids, younger folks, because my daughters are all 16 to my oldest is 29, so she's kind of where she's at, but my other girls are 19, 18, 16. So all their friends, I get a great cross section of like where their heads are at and what they're doing. Right? No, seriously. And at the end of the day, so many of they're going into civil engineering,
Mm.
which is pretty interesting. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
so I had no idea what does a civil engineer do? Like I didn't really, I
Yeah.
mean, it seems like it's makes sense, but just unbelievable. So
Oh yeah.
we've got a pretty good infrastructure here. I wasn't really versed in what, because we have a gajillion SUNY schools, it feels like, right?
Yeah. I think
I
there's
mean,
like
not to just because SU
46 or
is
something
great,
like
but
that.
SU is not a SUNY school at the end of the day,
No,
right?
no.
It's an
It's a
amazing
private
university,
university.
right? Amazing university. But what I love about SU is that they aren't afraid to work with other schools.
Oh, absolutely.
And a lot of schools won't do that, especially private institutions. They just won't. So
Well, I think they see that they play a larger part in the whole that is the economy, that is the ecosystem that thrives in that area, and they realize that they need to play along because playing well with everybody means everyone does well.
yeah, absolutely. Well, rising tides raise all ships. And I've heard that a gajillion times from the leadership at SU, right? Like
Right.
that's one of their favorite sayings, especially guys like Mike Haney and a lot of the folks at IVMF, especially, and the Whitman School as well, which is
Mm,
just who I deal with a lot. And
right.
so, yeah, it's pretty cool. Um, but so career bridge on the other side. So we've talked about the job looking folks, but what about the
Yeah.
companies? What
Yeah.
what about that side of it? What are their pain points and whatnot?
Yeah. What I'm seeing really with the pain points on the employer side is a knowledge and understanding of where their talent can come from. So they know that, yeah, there's a university here, there's a university there. I can hire from those, sure. But the bad taste that's been left in the mouth of employers in university towns and cities that aren't those big cities is that these graduates will come and only work a year, land that job in Boston and leave, right?
Mhm.
Or forget even, wanting to move out of the area, out of the city. I've heard a lot recently, a couple manufacturing organizations say, people just don't come into work, they'll have somebody who'll just stop coming or, comes in late or what are you going to do, right? And so I kind of look at them thinking, well, you're just hiring the wrong folks.
Right.
Right. Like that's a simple fix. You're choosing the wrong people. But as far as people coming and then leaving, I look at it two ways from the employees side of it, like what makes your organization unique enough to make me want to stay? And then from the organization side of it, you know, what is it that we have to offer, but what am I getting from that candidate as well? Like, what is the quality of work based on their knowledge, based on where is their headspace? So it's it's a very unique you know dichotomy between the two. It almost seems like they're bumping heads with one another. They want to work with each other, but they don't want to do what needs to be done to work for them or learn about or
Right.
and it's just it's strange to me. But then when you start, you step back to what I was saying earlier, right? We've got these talent pipelines that are already established in these universities through these programs, whether it be a master's, bachelor's, PhDs, you know and a variety of STEM opportunities. Now, I stick with STEM because that's just what I know. I'm
Yeah.
not going to try and, you know, do something that I don't have an understanding in. Because I worked for civil engineering firms, I worked for telecommunication organizations, I've worked for, manufacturing companies, and I've been in the military, so I've seen a lot of the different avenues that are out there, and I can kind of understand what their needs are. And I think just better candidates overall is what they need. They need to start hiring better candidates, which, makes getting jobs a little tougher, but you have to find what sets you apart and what are your differentiating factors. You have to sell yourself, really. You got to know what it is that you're good at and be able to highlight that on resumes, on cover letters, online, because things are moving a lot faster. Things are moving at a rapid rate. And I think right now in the Syracuse area, things are moving at a rate that is very sustainable, but is a breakneck speed to a lot of organizations that were, kind of resting on their laurels.
Right.
And
Right.
they're going to find out that they're behind the bell curve right now, and they got some catching up to do. But the ones who are, hot on their feet, they are crushing it, and we love the work that they're doing.
Yeah. I I've seen in my uh time in business, right, that a lot of
Hmm.
employers I have had for a while. I think a lot of them are coming out of it now, but they had, especially since COVID. I, COVID shined a light on a lot of these things, right? With how we look at employees, right? And that they're people, they're humans,
Hmm.
they're people.
Exactly.
They're not even the verbiage uh has started to change back now. Where back in the 60s, you had personnel. That's what HR was called. Now it's called human resources.
Mm.
So I think there's and this is somewhat conjecture in my opinion, is that when you get into that mind frame of people as resources, as cogs in a wheel, yeah, they are, but they're still people. And we have to treat our employees like they're people, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it change when you do that, it changes the way companies' cultures function, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's been one of the biggest gripes and complaints about the evil capitalist system, right? Is that we're just a number instead of
Mm.
an actual asset. When companies will admit at the end of the day, their biggest assets are their personnel. But if you don't cultivate that, they're going to go somewhere else. So I've put a lot of onus on me being a business owner as well as making sure that our employees are happy.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah,
line.
absolutely.
There's a line that has to be drawn because there's a difference between happiness and just not doing your work and the balance, right? But
Right.
the onus a little bit has been very profit driven for years and years. And I think we need to go back to a more personnel driven. And it's like back in those days, you had these giant corporations that basically, sat in a town. Everybody worked there. Everybody could own a house. Everybody could, you know what I mean? I don't want to go on some diatribe and stand on a soapbox, but at the end of the day, I this is one of the things that I think we need to focus on as a country. And I think it has everything to do with what we talk about on this podcast with Full Spectrum Frontiers, is that it is about the entire system, not just about one piece or us pointing fingers and being like, you're bad, or you're good, or you're good, or you're good, right? And people need to get honest with how they're running their companies and how them as an employee are showing up. right? Because we talk about people who they can find people to hire, but they're not quality employees. What's that all about? Where's that coming from? You know what I'm saying? Like, where's the disconnect?
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it starts in the culture.
it
It's the
does
culture of the
absolutely.
cities. It's the culture of these towns. It's the culture of, these different boroughs or whatever it may be. It's ingrained in who they are based on, you know, where they came from or what is around them,
Yeah,
and they have to adapt to that culture. And if you create that dog eat dog culture, that very defensive culture, that's what all your people are going to be like in that area.
yeah,
If you create something that's more harmonious, that's more dependent upon these different organizations and these corporations staying in the United States, staying in these cities because you are working for them, and that's what's putting a roof over your head and food on your table. You're going to adapt to the cultures of that company. You're
and
going to
I think there's a loyalty issue as well,
absolutely.
right? And
Yeah,
I think we see this that we've lost some loyalty in our culture, and
yeah,
that's caused a lot by things at the top rolling downhill. You know,
yeah. And you
uh,
know what? That's a good point, because when you think about how the university has an impact on our city, right? Like, even just thinking about Syracuse, the University Syracuse, right? When there's a game on, every TV in the entire city, I swear, has Syracuse Orange playing on it. So people rally around the university for basketball, for football, for the athletics, for the arts, for all the different things that it has to offer. So, for the universities out there listening, you have every bit as much of a part in creating the culture of that city as the people who live
absolutely.
amongst them. Yeah.
Yep, yep. And I think there's been a disconnect between the loyalty to it's been a lot of on the employee side too. I mean, it goes both ways. It's a two-way street. But loyalty to your personnel and loyalty to your company.
Mm,
And hey, I want to make this place the best that it can be because I'm doing the best that I can, right? But so often we fall into this trap, or organizations culturally fall into the trap of, well, it's good enough. This is just what we do. This is how we do it, and this is what we do. Right. So I think that's one of the things I see happening here, which people are very loyal to the companies they work for, in this area at least. And it's getting better, in my opinion. I don't know if you see that trend as well. But yeah, it's pretty cool to see. And especially with things like giant projects like Micron. I don't think people understand the immensity of this. Uh,
I'm calling it a tech vacuum, but we might want to call it just a STEM vacuum in general. But it's causing, you know, a ripple effect, not only just in the Syracuse Clay area, but all these other suburbs around the area, all these other cities, down I-90. And yeah, Micron's going to come in, but you know what that means? More people are going to be here,
yeah.
right? Which means we're going to need more doctors, which
Yeah, it's
means we're
the
going to
it's
need
the
more nurses.
infrastructure side of it, right?
Yeah, we're going to need a lot more teachers. We're going to need, I mean, daycare.
Because what are they talking about
Oh my
employee
goodness.
wise? Isn't it 9,000 employees?
I've heard so many different numbers, but I think the number I like that's been in the middle of what everyone's saying is 15,000. 15,000, involved,
Oh yeah, when it
I
comes with
guess.
ancillary and all the other things, right?
Correct.
That
Yeah.
involve contractors and all the stuff. Yeah. 12 to
Yeah.
15 is what I've heard
Imagine if
about.
tomorrow you woke up and there were 15,000 more people in your city.
Well, we already see it with where you live and where I live. We already see it
Right.
with the home prices have
Right.
gone up a little bit. But I mean, it's not a bad thing. We were notoriously low anyway, right?
Sure.
even though our property taxes are way high. Like, and I'm just saying, like, I couldn't believe the house that you brought it up earlier with people like moving to Boston or New York City.
Right.
Like we have friends that live in Long Island. Oh my God. Like the amount that they pay for their house, and what they get is like it's what I've got, and I paid 180,000 for my house, but they
Mm.
paid 500,000.
Mm.
Right. It's
Same
just
square
insane.
footage, same
Same
acreage.
square footage,
You
same
know, it could be
everything,
the
three
same house,
bedroom,
copy paste.
copy paste, and it literally is $325,000 difference.
It's insane. That's two houses.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
absolutely crazy. But if you live up here, your money goes a lot farther, right?
Yeah. It's very
Um,
affordable to live in this area.
and not bad. And I think there's so many of these places across the country. It's not just here. It's and I'd like to see the trend. And this is one of the things that I do is
Mm.
trying to bring things like using the CHIPS Act and using different vehicles to help bring manufacturing back to the states. And in turn, you're bringing back just talent from
Yeah.
all walks of life because you need plumbers, you need electricians, you need all these things. Because not only, like you brought it up earlier with Micron, not only are you stimulating the STEM, but you're also going to stimulate the trades. You're going to stimulate
Absolutely.
all those things. It's absolute insane, and it makes me hopeful.
Yeah. We're going to have more power. So we're going to need more power line, more Pullman,
Yeah,
right?
I
More,
mean,
the
they're even
unions
talking
are
about
here, right?
now.
They're,
Like I worked at 9 Mile Point for years, and they were talking about
wow.
putting a third, bringing up nuclear. They were talking about they tried to get a third reactor built out there, right?
Mm.
Because as electrical generation goes, um, I mean, if we go down that rabbit hole, nuclear is a pretty good, if done correctly, nuclear is a very viable option, right? But they tried to get a third reactor built out there, and they regulated out of existence, right? So which I don't necessarily disagree with, but there's got to be some sort of check and balance with that, especially when it's needing like this Micron deal. I think we came up with an issue on some sort of wetlands, right?
Yeah.
And of course we have to take the environment into consideration, but are we going to let some wetlands impede the entire project?
Yeah. I think when I heard about this, and I might be wrong, but I think when I heard about this, it was something to do with an endangered species that was living in those wetlands. And now there's conservationists that are, monitoring the area, trying to,
Right,
see the migratory patterns or whatever it may be. What is the impact of
right.
taking down a majority of these wetlands and turning it into a semiconductor facility? And you're weighing two different options. you know you care about the earth, you care about green energy, you care about conserving as much wild land as possible, which New York does an incredible job with their forever wild system, which is incredible, the way that just a majority, I believe almost all, well, there's a couple of forests up in the Adirondacks, I should break it down, that are forever wild.
Yes.
And it is acres upon acres upon acres of beautiful land. Beautiful land. It's like, if you took, maybe mountains not as big, but if you took something like Aspen or Boulder, brought that out here and put it in the Adirondacks, it's the East Coast
Yeah,
Rockies,
correct. Exactly.
you know. So it's like just incredible land, but it's forever wild, right? They've already locked it in. They said you can't touch this.
I mean, even Onondaga
And
County's got
they
it's
do.
a great, I mean, there's some right here in the town of Clay. There's some and a bunch in Baldwinsville. We've got tons of forever wild stuff,
Yeah.
we're
So they
basically
do
for
a
the
really
next,
good job
yeah,
of it.
they do.
But I wonder, right, when we start thinking, and it's, you said it before, maybe about a different topic, but it's drawing that line. And
Yeah,
it's like, so where do we draw the line between who we care about most? Human beings and the American public, or, conservation of the world and of, wild
there
lands,
has to be a
right?
balance.
There is, there's got to be a balance, and there's a line that's drawn. It's trying to play with this, right? And I feel like that's what a lot of our politicians do. They kind of play with this line to work both sides to hopefully come to an agreement. But, at the end of the day, with the amount of money that's being put up,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Micron and, everything else that's at play, they push through and start developing their facilities there.
Well, I can already
Um,
see that there's been work being done already.
oh, sure.
I drive by it a decent amount, as do you, don't you? I'm sure you
Yeah,
probably do.
right down 31.
And that site is definitely, got some cleared areas now and some new signs are going up and, you know, things like that. So it's pretty cool.
Sure. Yeah.
But it's a long haul, but it's going to be cool. So you brought up also you're getting into real estate. So let's talk about that real quick. On
Yeah.
like real estate development, possibly.
Possibly some development stuff in the future, but really what we saw was, and again, just the same thing with CareerBridge, is we're creating ecosystems that feed off of one another so it's mutually beneficial and everybody wins, right? We place any one of those members of the underrepresented group, which is a percentage of the, graduating class that is unable to be placed post graduation. It's one of the, negative marks on a university when they're rated amongst the masses. So we found a solution to that by solving their issues, even with internationals, to be able to find jobs, help place their folks, right? So we solved this problem, we solved this issue, but we started seeing another problem, and that was, people wanting to be more entrepreneurial and not really having access to capital, and being able to establish themselves, in capital,
Mhm.
for whatever investment that might end up being. And we also saw a similar problem where there wasn't enough housing opportunities for residents, students, around military installations, service members. And we're starting to see, okay, there's this trend that's happening here as well. And we see these folks who want to become property managers, property owners. That's what they want to do for a living. Some people want to be plumbers, lawyers, doctors, it doesn't matter. Everybody's got a goal. So we find people who want to do this, but the cost to entry into the investor class is wicked high. And when
Yeah,
you're
right.
kind of, mid 20s to mid 30s, maybe, depending on a couple lucky, flips in the jar here, you might have not have had the capital yet to build and to create this. So what we do is we partner with folks as investors to come in with us on individual properties or individual development projects. And so we bring in a whole bunch of folks. And so we make the pieces of the pie a little bit smaller. So, the buy-in is a little bit easier, not as big of a pill to swallow.
Yeah.
And by doing this, we're able to develop and we're able to get more properties, more homes, more apartments, whatever it may be, renovated, back up to livable status, or if it was already livable, putting it onto the market, and then developing other places to live as well. And we stay affordable. So we don't gouge the market, where you kind of look at pricing and you say, okay, there's the, I need to make at least this much a month to cover bare minimum and make nothing. And then and I need to make this much is what I can gouge out of the market as a top dollar price. And you see people who are renting fall, somewhere they flirt with that middle line where they're like, well, I don't want to screw people over, but I also don't want to miss out on hundreds or thousands of dollars in revenue. So we find, refurbish, build, whatever it may be with these houses, um, to establish these entrepreneurs with their first property venture, that they own a majority share of that investment.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're renting out to folks, like university students or military members, or people of the community who can't afford what the current housing situation looks like. So we come in at a very fair market value so that everybody wins. The
Yeah.
investor gets a good return on their investment. The person renting has a safe place to live that's also affordable.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's important to say safe, because a lot of
Absolutely.
times I've seen, rental homes or buildings or whatever, and the electricians, might have buttoned it up, but your buddy helped you assemble some new gizmos and gadgets in the house, and things aren't up to code now, and now we've got a problem. So we with this venture, it's so the organization is MJ Property Ventures. It's kind of almost like CareerBridge. It's meeting you in the middle of two different problems. So it's finding affordable housing, but it's also creating affordable housing.
Awesome, man. Just got your hands in enough, right?
Yeah,
Goodness.
yeah. Not to fail to mention my 4-month-old. Uh,
Right.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, being a dad, very important. And definitely takes top priority. Being a husband, being a dad, and all this other stuff is kind of necessary evil, time that you take away from your family. So I figure if I'm gonna lose time away from my family, or you know being outside, or having you know enjoyable experiences, I'm gonna rather do some work that is going to be enjoyable, and that's going to have a lasting impact, and something positive that I can leave behind is that, hey, however many people I've been able to place, that's that many lives, generations that I've impacted, and however many people that I've been able to house, that's that many safer homes that are out there for these folks.
Absolutely. So tell us where people can find out about these things, about your projects, and
Yeah,
what are your like your social media, your where people can get a hold of you.
yeah. I actually took a very wild approach. I'm off social media. My business and I have LinkedIn. So if anybody wants to get in contact with me, get in touch with me, Matthew DePrimo, on LinkedIn. My organizational page is on LinkedIn as well. That's CareerBridge IT Solutions. You can go to our website, careerbridgeitsolutions.com. And if you need to get in contact with me, my email is on the website. My email is on my LinkedIn and on the company's LinkedIn. But yeah, I'm always interested in having these chats with folks who want to learn more ways to grow their organization cost effectively, while also supporting the local ecosystem. And it's just great to hear that the country is trending positively in all the different things that I'm working on right now. And so it makes what you're doing seem like it brings it to life. It shows you right before your very eyes at a larger scale, what the potential of the work that you're doing is. And so we're always looking to grow with the communities. So if your community wants to grow, you can always reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for coming on. And this has been a
Absolutely.
little bit of time coming, but we figured it out, right? So,
That's right.
and I'm sure we'll have
Yeah.
you on again to update and talk about other things. So, certainly appreciate you coming on. All right.
Oh, surely. Thanks for having me, and I appreciate everything you guys are doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just you, me, and the odds. We stuck together, we two peas in a pod. You dealt a bad hand, I'm there seizing the cards. We'll never be separated till we see in the gods. We've been low together, high forever. Long as we go together, we'll die whenever. Be a light, couldn't let the darkness try you ever. Truth in my word, you I lie to never. And when the world gets a little too hard, wipe your eyes, put away your sorrow. When it's war, I'll be leading the charge, and I'll be still fighting for you tomorrow. Yeah, even with a blindfold or in different time zones, could find my way to you with my eyes closed. There's nothing between us. Go to Mars and Venus, stand in front of every one of them rocks they slinging and be a shield.
Your shield, yeah. In the fiercest battle, I'll defend you. From all these arrows in the sword I will keep you from danger. Let me be your shield.
Yeah, let's go. Let me be your shield, let me be your shield. Let me be your shield, let me be your shield. Let me be your shield, let me be your shield. Let me be your shield, let me be your shield.
You may be facing tribulation, but don't let it get you down. What I'm saying may take patience, but you're gonna make it out. I scorched my own 2 feet to pull you to safe